Imagine for a moment that you are in a small village, surrounded by lush green hills, where the wind gently blows through the trees, and the sound of nature is the only echo you hear. A peaceful place, but filled with hope and faith. The villagers, though modest, share something fundamental. They believe in the power of faith and in a higher power that guides them. Every day, they move forward with the assurance that they are never alone, guided by something far greater than themselves. Subscribe now to our channel and don't miss out on more inspiring content. Stay connected with us to learn more about faith and the transformation we can create together. This place, where devotion and hope have never disappeared, is the kind of community that Pope Leo XIV encountered during his years as a missionary. He wasn't a man of great wealth, but a simple priest, traveling long distances on foot or horseback, bringing the Eucharist to the neediest. He lived in moments where he learned that faith is not measured by what we have, but by what we are willing to give to others. Today, as Pope, Leo XIV continues to carry that same humility, but his mission has evolved, and now he is tasked with guiding the Catholic Church in a rapidly changing world. Yet despite all this, he remains faithful to that original mission, bringing faith to the heart of each person, especially those who need it most. As the world evolves at a fast pace, and as family structures and social dynamics face enormous challenges, the Church must respond to this new reality. But how can we keep the message of Christ alive in such a diverse and ever-changing world? Now, more than ever, Pope Leo XIV invites us to reflect on the role of the traditional family. Why does the union between a man and a woman remain the foundation of society, despite the ongoing cultural transformations? What can we do to defend the essential values that sustain our communities? The answer lies in our faith. The family, as it is understood in the context of the Church, remains the refuge where love, respect, and education guide us to build a more just society. In a world where we face new challenges every day, the Church must be a voice that not only speaks, but acts, bringing answers to the questions that concern us all. The traditional family has always been the solid foundation upon which many societies have been built. For centuries, families have played a central role in transmitting values, traditions, and moral education to future generations. However, in recent years, the very concept of family has come under pressure. Social and cultural transformations have led some to rethink the role of the traditional family in an ever-evolving world. Today, in many Western countries, like the United States, the concept of family has been redefined and questioned. With the liberation of rights and the evolution of social structures, we've seen an increase in the acceptance of new forms of cohabitation and redefinitions of family models. In the US, and for example, the legalization of same-sex marriage in 2015 was a monumental shift in the redefinition of the family model in the legal context. Despite these changes, many still consider the traditional family as the cornerstone of society. Do you believe the traditional values of family can adapt to the challenges of today's world? Leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. Pope Leo XIV, upon assuming his papacy, knew that the concept of family he defended was vital for the social balance and well-being of individuals. The union between a man and a woman, as the foundation of marriage and family, remains crucial to maintaining moral order and social cohesion. The Pope recognizes that family is not simply a refuge of love, but also the place where values are shaped that will guide individuals throughout their lives. In the United States, a nation deeply influenced by religious roots, the family remains the centerpiece of communities. A 2020 study by the Pew Research Center revealed that over 70% of Americans still view the traditional family as a fundamental element for social stability. Despite social transformations, family values continue to be deeply respected and maintained in many regions across the country. Pope Leo XIV emphasizes that, in these times of challenges, the Church must be a beacon of hope for families, helping them strengthen traditional values while also upholding justice and equity. Indeed, the family should not be seen only as a private refuge, but as a moral and ethical training ground that contributes to building a stronger, more just society. That's why Pope Leo XIV invites us to reflect on the role of family in the 21st century. While it is important to acknowledge social changes, we must not lose sight of the core values that bind us together. The traditional family, as understood by the Church, remains the foundation upon which a more resilient and compassionate society is built. Part 3. The role of faith in social transformation. For centuries, faith has been a powerful force that has not only shaped the lives of individuals, but also the societies in which they live. History is filled with examples where Christian faith has been a driving force for social transformation, urging people to fight against injustice, seek equity, and promote solidarity. But in the 21st century, faith faces new challenges, a world where globalization, relativism, and cultural diversity seem to question traditional values. So, what role can faith play in this new context? Can it still be a force for transformation in modern society? Pope Leo XIV, in assuming his role as a spiritual leader, understands that faith is not an isolated thing, nor is it simply a ritual without meaning. It is a living force, capable of changing realities. In the United States, for example, Christian faith remains a cornerstone for millions of people. According to a 2020 study by the Pew Research Center, 65% of Americans identify as Christians, although the number of practicing Christians has declined over the years. Still, faith in communities remains central, especially during times of crisis. But faith in today's context is not just about religious rituals. Instead of being an experience limited to the church, faith must be lived in daily actions. True faith is reflected in our behavior, in how we treat others, and in the values we promote. Christian faith is not just about belief, but about how we live those principles in society. In the US, one of the biggest current challenges is growing social inequalities. According to the US Census Bureau, more than 11% of Americans live below the poverty line, despite the nation's economic growth. In this context, Pope Leo XIV urges us to view Christian faith not just as spiritual comfort, but as a motivator for action to improve the lives of the most disadvantaged. Faith must guide us not just to pray for the poor, but to act for them, offering solidarity, justice, and compassion. The Catholic Church, with its vast network of charitable organizations, has a crucial role to play in this context. Pope Leo XIV views Christian faith not only as a means of individual salvation, but as a tool for transforming the world. It is clear that the Church must be an active force in society, not only preaching love, but also acting concretely to improve the lives of the most vulnerable. But Pope Leo XIV also knows that the challenge is much greater. In a world that is increasingly individualistic, where social media and consumer culture seem to pull people away from caring about others, Christian faith must be a force for transformation, which seeks not only personal salvation, but promotes the common good. We need to remember that faith is not just a personal matter, but has a collective impact, a social responsibility that each of us must assume to contribute to a more just world. Pope Leo XIV invites us to see the Church not as an institution of the past, but as a living force that walks alongside the people. It is not just about preserving traditions, but about being flexible and adaptable, while never losing sight of who we are. A community of faith, hope, and love. If this message resonates with you, be sure to hit the like button to support us and encourage more content like this. As society evolves, the Catholic Church faces increasingly significant challenges. In a world where secular values seem to eclipse traditional spiritual teachings, how can the Church remain relevant? How can it continue to be a moral voice in a world that is becoming more individualistic, relativistic, and technologically driven? Pope Leo XIV is fully aware of the secularization of modern societies. In the United States, like many other Western countries, religious traditions are being tested by a society that is increasingly pluralistic and by the rise of technological advances. A 2021 study by the Pew Research Center revealed that nearly 50% of Americans identify as religiously unaffiliated, reflecting a broader trend across Europe and Latin America. This trend puts the Church at a crossroads. How can it maintain its role as a spiritual reference when so many people no longer view religion as an essential part of their lives? However, Pope Leo XIV is not intimidated by this difficulty. He knows that, while the world is changing rapidly, the fundamental principles the Church defends, such as love for others, justice, charity, and unity, remain essential and have a deep impact on modern society. The Church, according to the Pope, should not be merely an isolated religious institution, but a vital force in the lives of individuals. Throughout history, the Church has played a crucial role in maintaining the moral values that form the foundation of a just society. In the United States, for example, the Church still plays a central role in moral formation for society, despite the challenges posed by a globalized and increasingly diverse world. Rural and more traditional communities continue to view the Church as not only a spiritual refuge, but also a model for questions of morality and ethics. But today, Pope Leo XIV knows that the Church cannot remain passive. Modern society demands that the Church connects with social realities while remaining true to its spiritual essence. The Church must be a voice that speaks out on current issues such as social inequality, extreme poverty, and injustice that affect millions of people worldwide. In America, where poverty remains a significant issue, the Church has a crucial role to play in offering hope to the most disadvantaged, but also in mobilizing people to action. In countries like Colombia and Lebanon, where economic disparities are massive, the Church continues to be a pillar of support, offering hope and aid to those suffering from violence and instability. Pope Leo XIV also knows that the Church must adapt to modern times. In a world where globalization has brought an explosion of information, technology has changed the way people connect and think about spirituality. Social media, mass media, and technological advancements offer new opportunities, but also new challenges. The Church must be visible in these new spaces, offering clear answers to the concerns of society, but also remaining a spiritual refuge for those seeking peace and comfort. Pope Leo XIV invites us to see the Church not as an outdated institution, but as a living force that walks alongside the people. It is not just about preserving traditions, it is about being flexible and adaptable without ever losing sight of what we are, a community of faith. Pope Leo XIV emphasizes that, while the Church faces challenges in maintaining its relevance, it should never abandon its core principles. Love, compassion, justice, and solidarity are universal values that remain essential even in a secular world. The Church must be a beacon of light in the darkness, a place where people can find answers, comfort, and a call to action to transform society. In times of crisis, when the world seems to be on the brink of collapse, faith becomes a refuge for many. But it is not just a passive refuge, it is an active force for change. Christian faith should not remain confined to religious rituals. It must drive us to act, to transform the realities of those who suffer, and to act in the name of the values that Jesus taught us: love, justice, solidarity, and peace. Pope Leo XIV, aware of the challenges that believers face today, invites us to live our faith outside the walls of the Church. In a world where inequalities and social injustices are becoming increasingly evident, the Church must be an active voice, bringing solutions to the most vulnerable. In the United States, for instance, more than 25% of the population lives below the poverty line, despite the country's economic progress. In this context, Pope Leo XIV urges us to view Christian faith not just as spiritual comfort, but as a motivator for action to improve the lives of the most disadvantaged. Faith must guide us not just to pray for the poor, but to act for them, offering solidarity, justice, and compassion. Christian solidarity is an essential value that the Pope highlights. In a world dominated by materialism and individualism, the Church must remember that love for others is at the heart of its message. Helping others is not only an act that brings us closer to God, but it transforms society. Every act of generosity, every gesture of support for those in need is a concrete manifestation of faith that unites us as the people of God. Pope Leo XIV reminds us that the Church must be a force of transformation. This transformation is not limited to institutional reforms, but it must start with a spiritual renewal, a call for each Christian to live their faith with authenticity and commitment to transform society. Christian faith must be practical and transformative, bringing the light of Christ to those in darkness. Pope Leo XIV calls us to be a church that acts, a church that does not remain silent. It is a call to social action and moral action, to be witnesses of Christ's love in our daily lives. Sometimes the help we offer may be as simple as listening to someone in need or supporting those going through tough times. But above all, we must be faithful to the Christian principles of love, justice, peace, and solidarity. As the world changes, the Church must adapt to be a force of transformation. But this transformation is not just about institutional reforms. It is about a spiritual renewal that calls each of us to act with compassion and responsibility. Christian faith must be practical and transformative, carrying the light of Christ to those in need, whether in the streets of a city, in rural communities, or in the most forgotten corners of the world. Thus, the Church will not only be an institution of faith, but an active force for the common good, transforming society and bringing the love of Christ to every corner of the world. If this message resonates with you, be sure to hit the like button to support us and encourage more content like this. Pope Leo XIV has clearly stated throughout his papacy that the mission of the Church is primarily a commitment to humanity. In a world facing ever-growing challenges, where social divisions and conflicts seem to multiply, the Church must be the voice of hope, the beacon that guides people towards a more just, equitable, and loving life. It is no longer time to wait for solutions to come from the outside. The Church has a vital role to play in this process, and this role is not limited to preaching, but to acting. It is not enough to speak of love, solidarity, and justice. It is time for us to live these values, to become agents of change in our community and in the world. Faith must push us to do good, to not stay indifferent in the face of injustices, and to work tirelessly for the well-being of others. Throughout history, the Church has shown that it is capable of being a force for transformation. In times of crisis, such as during wars, pandemics, or natural disasters, the Church has been a source of support and comfort, offering both material and spiritual aid to the most vulnerable. In Latin America, for example, the Church has been a pillar of support during times of political, economic, and social unrest. In Colombia, for instance, during the Civil War, the Church became a voice of peace and reconciliation, offering refuge to the victims of violence. However, the challenge we face today is even greater. We live in a society where individualism and materialism often dominate, and where many have lost faith in traditional institutions. Pope Leo XIV reminds us that the Church must not be an isolated refuge, but a living community, one that walks alongside the people, bringing hope and working to transform social realities. That's why it is necessary for each of us to ask, what can I do to be a part of this transformation? We cannot wait for change to happen on its own. Pope Leo XIV calls us to live our faith actively, to be witnesses of Christ's love in our daily lives. Sometimes the help we offer may be as simple as listening to someone in need or supporting those who are going through difficult times. But most importantly, we must be faithful to the Christian principles of love, justice, peace, and solidarity. Thus, the Church will not only be an institution of faith, but an active force for the common good, transforming society and bringing the love of Christ to every corner of the world. If this message has touched you and you wish to support us, don't hesitate to leave a super thanks. Your generosity helps us continue to share inspiring messages and reach more people.